All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Dias. I'm part of the Go Forth team with Zachary Chambers, Francisco Sanchez, Alex Testrote, and Travis Tankersley, and we are presenting our semester project. All right. Next slide. All right, so in introduction, what is GoForth? GoForth is a virtual tabletop simulator that runs in web browser for users to connect to each other and play Dungeons and Dragons. So to better understand GoForth and its goals, we need to understand what D&D is. D&D is a tabletop RPG that allows players to come together, create characters, worlds, and stories together. It's great for team building, and it's a great social exercise, and you can find some really great friends. It's very popular and it's growing rapidly. The problem is that with things like COVID and people growing up and moving apart, there's a need for a virtual connection to get to each other in order to play. So GoForth tries to attempts to bridge that gap so that people can play together in a web browser. All right, next screen. All right, for our agenda, we're going to be talking about the marketing and financial structure of GoForth. Uh, then we're going to be talking about the functional goals, implementation, and plans for the future from both the CS and IT perspectives, with the demo in between those two. Alrighty, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Francisco for our uh, marketing and financial structure.
Thank you, Jerry. All right, so I'm Francisco Sanchez, the sole CIS worker on this, and we'll get started with target market and demographics. Okay, so the target market for GoForce is any players of the game of Dungeons and Dragons, the tabletop role-playing game. The main target age range for this will be young adults between the ages of 18 to 35, as those are the consumers with the greater spending capacity while still actively playing with multiple groups. The player base under 18 is generally small, either playing with friends or at school, and they just don't have the number of groups that most people are using this program for. The player base that is 35 and up usually have already found their groups and prefer to play with pen and paper, which would cancel out, the technology that we provide. Next slide, please. Okay, so what prospective buyers want? We interviewed 26 individuals ranging from 18 to 19-year-olds and going up to 40 and 45-year-olds, believe it or not. So we found that they had many dislikes towards the current market dominators, such as Roll20 and Foundry. Um, many users wanted simple to use interfaces, clear and concise layouts, and key character attributes readily available. And what that means is basically just a character sheet, a sheet that tells you your character's name, their stats, what are their goals, all the items they're carrying, stuff like that. They want that implemented with the programs that display the maps. And above all else, they really dislike the idea of subscription fees. So we just got rid of that entirely and went for a one-time purchase. Next slide. Okay, so we are offering the base product for $40. Most people end up spending over 100 a year on on other providers such as Roll20 and Foundry. And so we decided 40 was a reasonable entry price for many users. And from there, we went on to price the pre-designed maps to be $5 each, as those are just simple and easy to implement. The pre-built modules, those are more of a storybook that you buy, and it just comes with maps, characters, just everything made for you. You just plug and play. The custom user interface, again, that's just a change on your side. You just change what you see on your end, just so you could add snowflakes in or whatever seasonal changes you'd like. Next slide, please. All right, moving on to the expenses. You can see that we have an expense of 30,000 for advertising. And the reason it is so high is because we are trying to be aggressive as early as possible. We're trying to just get as many users as we can right off the bat. And to do that, we need to partner with um, groups that play D&D via Twitch or YouTube, the influencers. And to pay a group of 5 to 6 people, that costs a lot of money. And so that would take up about 15,000. The other half would be spent on marketing towards the social media platforms. And that's why it's extremely high. Now I'm going to pass it off to my teammate, Zach.
Thank you very much, Francisco. My name's Zach, and I worked on the front end with the computer science team. And I'm going to talk about some of the features that we have inserted into GoForth and the features that we hope to include in the future. Now, when working on GoForth, we did one thing. We gave the gamers what they want. So some of the features that we have included that the gamers wanted are here, but not included, including but not limited to an intuitive UI. Like Francisco said before, the competitors like Roll20 and Foundry have unnecessary complex user interfaces. So we felt like we had to make ours simple and intuitive to be able to be used. Like for instance, battle information is already available in the game room so that you don't have to be looking at your character sheet every once in a while in order to get all the necessary battle information. Speaking of character sheets, every character sheet will be available virtually within the app. Gone are the days where we have stacks of paper right next to you and PDF files on the screen that will waste up all your computer space. It's already available for you. Interactive battle maps is the next thing. To be able to set the mood for our players in order to be able to have a really good story immersion in combat and in a whole lot of other role-playing moments that they'll be able to enjoy and play. Next is the Dungeon Master live feed. While the other players are able to text chat and audio chat, the DM has a special feature where they're able to video feed to the rest of the players to be able to give their own immersion of their own. We thought it'd be very cool, so that's why not. Last but not least, like Francisco said before, no subscription fees. Only a one-time deal, one-time pay, and you'll have everything that GoForth has to offer. Next slide, please. So going forth into the future, see what I did there, is that we hope to include animated maps, which will further immerse the players into the world that they've created, and expand a map library. Well, we have a couple of maps already. We hope to include a whole variety of maps in order to give every single possible environment that the Dungeon Master could think of. Shading and lighting is also very important too for further immersion. And we hope to be able to give the players the ability to add custom maps and custom character sprites to make the world their own. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand it over to Travis and he'll show a live demonstration of how GoForth is right now.
Hey everybody, I am Travis Tankersley. I would like for this to get out of here. How do I get out? There we go. Okay. I'm going to give the live demo of our service. So here's our sign up page. I am going to start with a new sign up so we can just, I'm going to log in, but if you needed to make a new account, you can just click that and fill in all these forms, agree to the terms and conditions, submit, and it will create you an instance in our database. But for now, I'm just going to sign in as me. And I am audible to all, correct? Bam, signed in. So redirects us to our title page and we want to go to our profile. So from here, we have access to all of our characters, all the campaigns we're currently involved in. And in the future, once we get our map handler situation fixed up, this will let us get into all of our maps and edit those. So for now, we're going to go into our character create. Well, we could create a new character, but I'm just going to go to one that I've already created. So we have some fields filled out and we are way zoomed in for some reason. Okay, so this is my guy, Certain Death. So as you can see, it has all the basic fields that you would want or expect from a character page involved with D&D. We got your backstory, the box for spell casting, that right there. It takes for it's extremely difficult to remember all those. So having those readily available is extremely useful. equipped, inventory, and all these stats up here, they're all editable and they all save whenever we click our save button. So for instance, I'm going to change my armor class. I'm going to put on my heavy armor, go up to 15. I'm going to hit save. And these changes are actually going to carry into the game room, which I'm about to show you. Okay, so we'll go to the campaign I've already started, but we have a Curse of Strahd. That's the, okay. And there we go. All right, so right now, as you see, all these fields are currently unpopulated and stuff. And this is where the stream is gonna happen. But if we wanted to load our character in, you hit the characters button, select the character you're gonna be using. We're using Certain Death, and bam, and you can see right there that change carried through. We have all of our equipped weapons, and this guy's a brawler, so he ain't got time for no spells. Okay, and now we can look at our map. This is where all the fun is gonna happen, man. You can change our map if we wanted to, you know, say the party comes across a secret cave and it's like covered in ice. Well, we can just, bam, do that. And oh no, there's some ogres at the entrance. What are we gonna do? So you click the box of sprites, click the sprite you want to select, and then you just come over here and like plop them down wherever you need. So, you know, my archer's back here, got a little mage next to him, and then got the hero rushing in. It would be nice if these guys face the other way, but you know, that's for future development. Okay, so say, you know, this guy wants to move 30 feet to the right. You just click him, you got to grab him again, and then bam. So now he's there. And these guys, they're fighting, they kill these guys. All you got to do to remove them is click them. And then you're out of initiative and you can go back out into the forest. Yeah, that's nice. All right. And down here we have a chat box. Jeremy, are you ready to do this or
Yep.
like this? Okay,
All right,
cool.
I'll go ahead and type a message just so you can see. Hey guys. There, you can see me pop up right there with the username Solitary Wildflower.
And I get Hidden Sun. So right now it's set to where it's just assigning random usernames, but we can change that to where it'll import our character name really easily.
Yeah.
We just
And we
overlook
didn't want
that.
to start displaying everyone's emails on the chat, so we went with random ones so that people didn't dox themselves just by typing in chat.
All righty. And as for the live stream, it is functional, but we're having some bugs before this presentation, so we're going to opt out of showing this. But normally you would type your name in, you type in the room number of the broadcast, and then the viewers would either join as viewer or they would join as broadcaster for the DM. DM would hit join as broadcaster, and then the video would start streaming right up here, and then you can get on with it. And speaking of getting on with it, I'm gonna pass this on to Jeremy. That concludes the live demo.
Alrighty, can you go ahead and go back to the presentation
Yes,
for
I
me?
can. I believe I can. Bam. Alrighty.
Alrighty, so now switching to the IT perspective, we had one major issue from the IT backend perspective, and that was AWS. So we spent months trying to get AWS up and running, but we were constantly finding issues that were preventing us from moving forward. From the instance itself just throwing errors at us when we were trying to get it up. We finally got it up, and then we had constant issues with security groups not wanting to save, our IPs, despite being whitelisted, not being accepted. And then when we tried to secure shell in, we would constantly have key pair issues, and then they would solve themselves, and then they would come back, and just a lot of strange random issues that plagued us. We consulted articles, forums, Stack Overflow pretty religiously, and we just couldn't find much that was really helping us. We kept finding deprecated answers, unrelated issues, duplicates that just really couldn't get us where we needed. So we came to a crossroads where we decided we can either keep trying to get AWS up and running in this last bit of development, or we can try something new. It was a little risky because we were uncomfortably close to deadline, but we found the solution on the next slide. We found the solution in next slide. thank you, in Google Firebase. So when we switched to Firebase, we got our app project up, our app loaded, and on the internet with a public IP and DNS in less than 6 minutes. Literally less than 6 minutes. What we couldn't do in months with AWS. And we found that Firestore is a fantastic database with great and easy database storage and very fast queries. A lot of the benefits we got were the easy access and great documentation. A lot of the issues we ran into, we found documentation and people to help very quickly. We were resolving issues as they came up pretty immediately. The extra functionality and importing that they have for authentication, database, and Firestore and analytics was awesome. It was pretty much just, hey, do you want your database in Firestore? Do you want our version of authentication? Yeah, click yes, you're good to go. And there was no SSH required. We didn't have to secure shell in with key pairs and all that. We could load the files that we needed straight from our command prompt, just from our Windows computers, and bam, it was ready to go. Everything would update, no issues. Next slide. A couple of the problems we faced with switching was that a lot of our back-end work that we had completed had to be redone. An example of which is that Firestore is not a SQL database. So we had planned most of our things around SQL language. So when we switched, we had to redo a lot of it. We had to rethink our data structures to better fit in with more object-oriented rather than the schema-oriented databasing. We have less powerful queries than SQL. A lot of that has to be separately hard-coded in, and it made it a little bit more difficult. And we had to make new plans for how we access this data and display it on our screens with with different queries. But overall, the time and functionality cost was well worth it because it just worked so well with minimal issues, and the issues we did have solved quickly. All right, next slide. All right, so authentication and services. Our authentication is actually using the Firebase authentication that comes with it, meaning that Google keeps track of user accounts. So we don't have to, it's a lot less that we have to worry about. We don't have to worry about the security, encryption, and all that to keep user accounts safe. That's on Google's side. It does have a couple limits that I can cover later, but for the most part, really handy. And then also for our payments, we plan on using PayPal web integration so that whenever you're ready to unlock your account, it'll take you to a page where you pay the $40 fee. It submits the payment and unlocks your account, and bam, you're ready to go. And you'll have access to all GoForth's functionality. And now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Alex to talk more about our techniques.
Thank you, Jeremy. So hi, I'm Alex, and I've been working with the IT side of the project. So as Jeremy was mentioning, getting the project set up early on was pretty rough with AWS. We were having all kinds of issues, a lot more issues in progress actually. But then we discovered Firebase. So for us, that was very useful, making the project come together. And that's why we chose to make it our main tool for the game. So for our tech needs, we're using Google Firebase exclusively to host the website and the database through Firestore, which is built into Firebase. So the project is completely contained in Firebase. We also have our code put up on GitHub as well. And for us right now, that is currently enough for the project to run. However, we're kind of thinking more long-term, and as we get a bigger player base, we're thinking about maybe going to a larger cloud service that has more options and more features. Also, to save money in the future, we also plan to self-host our data in the cloud, and so that we can get rid of a middleman that we might not need in the future as we get more financially able to do things. Next slide, please. So to ensure we have software readily available, we have backups in 2 places. And one of them is the cloud, and the other is on 2 different physical hard drives. So for the online cloud version, Firebase automatically backs up the website and the database. This is very nice. It means as long as Google's servers are up and running, so is our data and our website. And I think that's a pretty safe option. But just in case, we also have one physical hard drive with the latest software on it, and then another hard drive in a different location with the previous pushed software on it. So in the future, we also plan to host our backups online through one of our own servers, so that we don't have to rely on a third party. Again, trying to cut out the middleman. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the presentation back over to Jeremy so that you can talk about where we plan to be in the near future and how we plan to upgrade our backend.
You're muted.
Jeremy, you're muted.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. So from the Firestore database perspective, we want to focus on making our security as strong as possible for our information. We don't want anyone getting in and reading, writing, or deleting data without express permission. So we're going to work on tightening those security rules to make sure that that gets done. We'd also like to expand and make more robust database structures to provide more personalization and functionality for users, such as friends lists and things, to make sure they get the most out of our service. And for other services, like I said before, we have the PayPal integration payments that we want to get in. We would like to get some integrations for Wizards of the Coast and other official D&D websites to maybe import characters, campaigns, modules, and assets from official D&D websites, which would greatly benefit us, not only for the functionality, but also for the advertisement. Being partnered would be great. And then community support for maps and assets, having like kind of a marketplace for each person to post their own modules and assets for other people to see and really promote the community aspect of D&D. Alrighty, but with that, that is the end of our presentation. Thank you for joining us. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I had a question for the CIS majors. I was wondering, what would you do if you didn't get the 30,000 in your investment?
All right. So if we didn't get the 30,000, that was mainly to focus more on, 6 or 7 groups of influencers that would be streaming our product to thousands of people. So if we didn't get as much as we were hoping for, we could cut that down to 1 or 2 groups and focus on the major influencers in the D&D community. But thank you.
Another question. You mentioned that you wanted to like partner with Wizards of the Coast and other official D&D content providers. Is there any people in particular other than Wizards of the Coast that you guys would like to specifically target to partner with?
Going from there, I think Wizards of the Coast is the main one. We try to make our product as similar to their website as possible to allow ease of transition from their website to ours, in the hopes that they would, maybe help on our product.
Another random example is some other third-party sites like MCDM, if anyone's ever heard of that. They're like a small personal group that creates their own content for D&D, partnering with them so that their content can be on our site and so people can just readily access whatever content they have. I think things like that, third-party content distributors, would be a great partnership.
I have a question.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. So this is open to anyone, but going forth in the future, how do you guys plan on, advertising or expanding this? How do you plan on getting the word out aside from influencers and, YouTube and social media and such?
I see what you did there.
Going from there, I guess we would try to focus. Social media is the main avenue right after influencers. Going off of there, the subreddit, if we wanted to get out to the those Redditors, there's about a good 200 to 500 active users daily, so they would be able to see that. If we did manage to partner with Wizards of the Coast, or how Jeremy said, some other third-party providers, we could get the word out through there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, the internet would be a very big help. Absolutely.
And I was wondering what services you were trying to use with AWS, and like maybe like a little elaboration on like what problems you were running into.
Sure. So what we were trying to use specifically was EC2 for our web hosting and RDS for our SQL database. So a very specific issue was on my part is that trying to SSH in or secure shell into the Linux machine, the Linux AMI that we had, I can't do that from command prompt or for some reason Windows PowerShell. I was having a lot of command issues. So I downloaded PuTTY to help me secure shell in. And I would, I'd set it up to where it would secure shell me in with my key pair. And I would go around and do some stuff and like install Apache and stuff. I would end the session. I would, come back the next day and try to secure shell back in, and it wouldn't accept. It would say, "Sorry, you're not allowed. This IP address is blocked," or something like that. Another issue, that one was just kind of random. It just depending on what day of the week it was available and when it wasn't. Another issue was when we had our app on with Apache, everything installed and ready to go. We would try to go to the public IP address, but for some reason it was refusing connection no matter what. We even did, which is to preface bad practice, but just to see if it would work, we whitelisted all traffic from any IP address that might want to connect. Any IP address can connect and do whatever, and it still refused connection. So there was some kind of strange security issue that we were having that I was looking for a lot of documentation over, but I just really couldn't find much other than getting very deep into the Linux kernel stuff that was a little out of my wheelhouse and specialty, and it was just soaking up so much time.
Okay,
Just to add on to that,
makes sense.
it was also like a rabbit hole. It would be an issue that you would find, and then the solution that they were proposing did not work. So that was fun. And then so you'd find another solution also didn't work, and then you would find a solution to the certain problem, but then the next problem would come up. It was very time consuming, and once we found Firebase, we were very, very, very pleased.
Yeah, when Firebase worked in less than 6 minutes, we were like, well, this is no contest. So that was an example of like some of the issues we were having. Is there any other questions?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have one. I don't know if anyone has asked this yet, but is the website functional across different platforms? Like mobile, tablet, PC?
I'll take that one. As of right now, it's only it's only functional on like a PC monitor. Everything, all those elements, they're somewhat reactive, but at this point, it is not ideal to use it on any other platform, like be it a tablet or an iPhone. Eventually, that's absolutely going to be in the game plan, but just to start off, we were trying to make it work on just on the PC. So once the displays start shrinking a bit too much, we need to like completely rethink how we're designing our web pages. So it gets a little bit complicated. Thank you.
I have a question too.
All future development items that we do plan on adding. Was there another question?
Oh yeah, I think it seems like your website is based on HTML. Mm-hmm. So Firebase also helps creating your HTML pages.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So I think your website is based on HTML, right? Mm-hmm. So Firebase is helped to create your web pages too?
Not as much. We didn't rely on Firebase to create the HTML as much as it was to just host the HTML that we created. A lot of the HTML we made on our own.
Okay.
And then Firebase helped support it. Excuse me.
I think we're running a little over, so that'll be the last question.
Okay, thank you for all the questions. Okay, and also I think a response to the multiple platform one. Have you guys tested your app on the inside of the browser on like the phone or tablet?
Yes, we've looked at it a little bit on phone. It
Just
doesn't quite
UI.
format correctly. Yeah, okay, the UI doesn't. Yeah, the UI isn't really formatting correctly right now, so we're working on adding more
Okay,
just to
more.
better scale with resolution.
Okay, yeah, maybe just to adjust the style sheet, right? The CSS style sheet.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right now, it's just basically for PC, not supposed to be for mobile right now.
Yeah, we can handle a little bit on PC, but we plan on adding much better resolution scaling for some things like phone or smaller screens.